Let's take a look at how we could use the revolve command to create something like a stool. So I will set my design to inches. Also, in case you want inches as your permanent measurement, you could go to preferences and was it design? It is somewhere. Hold on, default units, there, design, and you simply set it to inches. Okay, so since I mainly work in metric, I will remain millimeter and just switch to inches. And we would like to create a stool that has a height of 20 inches. There is a 4-inch thick circular pad on top. And the base is a little bit wider. So I go to the front view. I will create a sketch. I select this front view construction plane, and I can zoom in a little bit and I see actually the numbers here. So I will start from the center, click, and maybe I could type in 16 inches, tab 90, okay. So the way how Rasher likes to work in AutoCAD. And then you see I cannot actually move the line anymore because I restricted it to 16 inches length and 90-degree orientation, and I have to mouse click and then the line is done. Okay, then for example 4 more inches up, there I just use simply the grid. And then, for example, 9 inches to the outside, because we have an 18-inch diameter, click. And if I go down and maybe 2 inches to there, click, and to the end, click. Okay, perfect. So I would like actually to from here go 4 inches down. So I could actually, because this is a perfect 20-inch tall object, count from the top 1, 2, 3, 4 down and simply draw myself a line, maybe like this. And you see then this way I have 2 different areas. And the main reason for that is actually this will be my pillow, this will be my wood base. And then I can maybe drag this one back till, for example, it snaps onto that line. Now you see there's actually a coincident constraint, which means this point will always be sitting on this line, which means I can actually, if I delete this, I should be able, oh no, I'm not. Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense because I have a 16-inch height here. So this was not very smart for me. So this line I simply delete. Also this constraint I delete, and then I draw a new line. So this line actually I always want to be horizontal. So I set this horizontal. This should be vertical. Okay. This will be horizontal because it is 90-degree to this line. I could also say this one should be horizontal. Okay. So this line now actually I can click and drag this way, and you see it actually disconnects. So how do we get this point always connected to there? So I could click the coincident and say this endpoint coincident on this line. There. Perfect. And you see now when I move this one up and down, my sketch adjusts in uncontrollable ways. So this is now actually where the dimensioning comes in. And coming back to Rasha's question about how to start drawing something the way how you do it in AutoCAD, because we're in product design, we want to drive our design through dimensions most of the time. So it doesn't even matter actually how precisely you draw the sketch, because afterwards we correct the distance of lines anyway. So for example, this top, as we said, should be 9 inches. Then if we want to have maybe a 1 or 2 inch difference, then this one, for example, could be 12 inches. This one to here, let's say the height should be 4 inches. So you see I picked those two horizontal lines, and then I can type in 4 and it pulls it up. And maybe I could either say this line should be 20. I type in 18 so you see the change. Or I could also say the distance between this line and this line should be 20. Exactly the same outcome. So you see, there's not only one way how you can do it. These constraints, or think about them as rules you can set up, and based on how they might fit into what you need to do, you just can switch between different approaches for these rules. Okay, so I moved this one over to here so it's a little bit easier to read. Okay, so let's click Stop Sketch and go to like a 3/4 view, and this is now what we have. So for example, I mean, I could name it, we only will have one sketch, so I actually skip this step because it's very easy to understand what the sketch is doing. And then we can go to the revolve command. So let's play around with this a little bit. So when you start the revolve command, you have a profile and axis, and then you can click on the profile. That's actually always the face. And then you click on the axis. That's this line. And then you see you have an angle. We can actually by hand drag this one around. We can also type in 180 or 360. And that's basically the way how the revolve works. You click OK and we're good. Now I said I would like to have actually a pillow on top. Now there are two ways actually how I could create the pillow. I turn on the sketch again, go to create, revolve, click this one, click then this vertical line, and it revolves around, and you see actually it joins it together. That's not what I want. I want a new object, so new body. Click OK, and there it is. So this currently looks very, very stiff. So let's adjust this a little bit. So for example, we could go to the fillet and say this edge and this edge, maybe a 1/4 inch radius. Okay. Then let's show our pillow. So this will be very soft. So maybe down here, let's say also 1/4 inch. There, okay. And the top one I actually make bigger so it's more comfortable, for example, to sit on. So that's one way how you could do it. And what we got with this is basically a pillow where the sides are having the same angle as, for example, the base it sits on. But let's say that's not what we want. So I will delete actually the last features here. I will also delete this. Perfect. And what I will do now is I will go also one step further back. So where I do not see this filleted edge, because there I will use simply the extrude command from this top, 4 inches, new body, okay. And you see now when I go back time-wise, my base then is filleted again, but not the pillow. And then I could, for example, go back and say fillet, you also please 1/4 inch. Okay, and then one more time up here and round this one down. So you see actually the power of the timeline, how you can move forward and backwards, and then you get different geometry results you can actually also work with. And it's very interactive, so it's actually much easier to design furniture here than, for example, in AutoCAD. Okay, so let's take a look a little bit more at the revolve command. So let's say this should be a hollow base, maybe with a wood top at the top and then something at the sides, but mainly most of the inside should remain hollow, and currently it is actually solid. So what we could do in this case is we go back to our sketch, for example, and then I will go from here and draw, maybe on purpose, a line to there. So you see actually the line is coincident to these edges, but it is at a terrible angle. So I'll simply put in a horizontal constraint. Let's say the top part has to be strong, so maybe a dimension between these 2 inches. Okay. And then actually I would like also to have some sort of a side material that has to be strong and sturdy. And just for the sake of exercise, let's say, now if I could, for example, do an offset, but you see it offsets now everything. So I have to deselect this loop and then click on this edge. I can only offset this edge. And that actually works. But this line also goes over to there. So what I will do actually is, in this case, bring this line down so the end snaps to there and the end snaps to there. And then actually I can say you and you. And you see the cursor has an icon with a line and then an arrow. That means actually it will actually no, it didn't. So let's try to do this again. You and you. There. That's the way how you want it. So it will look like actually the distance between those two lines. And let's say 2 inches. So that's very important, and we actually apply the dimension between here and not, for example, between these two endpoints, because as you can see, this is actually not 2 inches. It's a little bit bigger. Let's say you want to have an alternative way how to draw this line. Instead of using the offset, we could also simply draw a line between here and here. Endpoints are constrained. And what I want to do now is say make this line parallel to that other line. So you parallel to you. There, see? Works perfect. And then you click, double click 2 inches. Okay. Let's click stop sketch and let's take a look what we have. And actually not much really happened here. So I go to this feature. So I move my mouse over, right click, edit feature. And then I say, it has 3 profiles. That's not good. So I delete and I only select this one. Let's go to double check if this trick worked out. Yeah, and you see actually the rest works out. There's one fillet that breaks, and that's fine because we rounded also this lower edge with this command, and currently we don't have that edge. But actually I will delete everything there because I don't like the way how it looks. Then I go back to revolve and say no, you and you rotate along this line, individual objects. There you see now I have those different parts. And now if I take a look, now you can see actually that we have kind of like a hollow object. And then we could go back and say here, this one, let's round this one Oops, that's actually the wrong one. I wanted to start with the pillow there. Let's round it. Maybe 2 inches, okay. And then one more radius for this one. So we set 1/4 inch. And let's move my mouse to here and see if we can actually understand what radius it is. So added feature. So this is actually dimension 23. So the reason why this is useful is I can simply go ahead and then select fillet and drag over those 2 objects. And you will see it will select all edges actually, and then here simply type in D23, and then because we established D23 with the pillow being 1/4 inch, it just copies the value from there. And then again, let's do this as an exercise. We could go to change parameters. So where do we have D23? There. And let's say 1/8 of an inch. And there you see everything is updated. Pretty fantastic. And for woodwork, actually, this is really way, way too much. Maybe two millimeters should be broken there. And you see if I type in 2 millimeters while I'm in inches, it doesn't actually really matter. Okay, so this is basically kind of like a small intro in how the revolve tool works. Let me go back to the beginning, because there's one last thing actually maybe I would like to show you. And inside the sketch, I will just add another line here, there. Okay, good. So why did I do this line? So if I go revolve this and this around this edge, you see that, the way how it works. I could also say revolve around this edge, then I get this shape. I could also say revolve around this edge, and you see that's the center, and that's basically how I create this hollow part in the center. So that means that when you need to create something like a donut where you have a hole in the inside, you do not need to always use the edge of a profile for the axis. You can just have a separate line. Okay, that's everything.